Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our ECHO session today. I am Dr. Carolyn Chang, and I work at Texas State University in our Academic Services Department, and I direct our Department of Education Title III and V programs. I also am a faculty fellow with the Translational Health Research Center, working in the STEM and healthcare workforce area of focus. And I am delighted to welcome you to our session 3 of this Inspire Echo series, Industry Sync Pathways for Innovation, Research, and Employment. Today's session, which is titled Sustaining Success, Tracking Trainee Progress and Outcomes, focuses on a critical component of workforce development initiatives, which is measuring impact and telling our program stories through data. Today, we will talk about leveraging technology and building strong data systems to monitor student and/or trainee progress, measure program impact, and report outcomes to funding agencies and industry partners. This in itself is a huge topic, and I am sure many of you are wrangling your own training data and outcomes for your own research groups, projects, grants, courses, or academic programs. And I'm hoping that today we can engage in a discussion that will bring many of us together to continue collaborating to build and contribute to robust training infrastructure here at Texas State University. Our goal for today is to share some practical tools available right now to the Texas State community, as well as strategies that you can use to both improve your programs and build strong cases for sustaining and growing future support. We're really excited to continue building this community of practice through these conversations, and we look forward to hearing from everyone today. So thank you again for joining us. Okay, so briefly, our agenda for today's session. I will first cover broadly what are we tracking and measuring for our gaining insight to impact. Then I will move into showing and sharing Flight Tracker for Scholars, which is a software and database system that we just started using, and I'm hoping others will be interested in joining us. We will then have Mr. Nick Weimer share with us Alumni Pathways, which is a feature of the Lightcast technology that Texas State recently acquired. And you'll be able to see kind of what that looks like and learn more about if it is something you'd like to use for your own research or training purposes. And then we'll have time for this open dialogue where we're really interested to hearing from you about the types of outcome measures you're tracking for your own use, and where you may have resources or strategies that are working really well, and also where you're looking to find new strategies or resources. And so we'll get started. So what are we tracking? Broadly, I'm talking about indicators of program success to either continue with your program or see that maybe there's somewhere where you need to have a feedback loop and regroup and redesign. We also use these indicators of program success when we're looking for proof points for proposals for new training programs as well. And so this is a table that is not comprehensive, but probably covers many of the metrics that some of y'all may be using to track your academic or training program success. So completion and retention, this could be related to courses or an academic program, but also a training program, a research training program, or other programs. So who's completing it? What's your drop-off rate? What's the retention rate for a program? Assessment and performance. So this could be course success rate, licensure pass rate, persistence, retention. Academically, we may be talking about time to degree. Also, most folks are probably most familiar with research productivity, publications, citations, grants and awards for both trainees and also mentors. Career outcomes, time to productive employment or the job placement rate at different intervals post-graduation, academic proliferation, and also career awards and honors and future earnings. If we're talking about engagement and satisfaction, this could be your trainee engagement, their participation rate and levels, their perceived satisfaction with the program. This could be qualitative and quantitative data. Longitudinal outcomes, graduation rate, post-graduation outcomes. This could also, cross into other categories. And then mentorship and network, your mentor competencies, mentor network proliferation, intellectual synthesis. And so these are broadly things that many of y'all are interested in tracking for your own program impact. And so, if we're looking at what everyone else is tracking, and this reflection or this shared piece is really biomedically focused, but I think we can gain insights across disciplines. The American Association of Medical Colleges has a group on research education and training that put together this report um, looking at institutional approaches to tracking research trainee information. And so this surveyed 12 institutions and looked at PhD and MD PhD and postdoc outcomes. They collected information related to the types of data being tracked, collection methods, and tracking systems. They looked at 7 institutions with great detail and it had them as examples of best practices. And they also highlighted challenges and strategies for effective outcomes tracking. And I think Shelby shared the report with y'all in the chat if you're interested in accessing the full report. And so some key points from that report indicated that most institutions focus on program characteristics and incoming trainee data, and fewer consistently tracked publication and career outcomes, some of that long-term information. Tracking methods had common strategies, including direct alumni contact using email, mining LinkedIn or other social networks, and other periodic web searches. Institutions used a mix of custom databases, including Microsoft Access, and some had university-wide systems. Manual data entry was very common, with some automation for alumni tracking via tools like InDegree. In terms of maintaining the data that is tracked, periodic updates were common with spot checks for accuracy. And common challenge was integrating with other university systems. In terms of coverage, the goal that was shared was a high degree of coverage, so over 70% of alumni being tracked, but achieving that is more feasible in this case for MD PhD programs than PhD programs, and that was due to PhD alumni moving to more varied career paths. And the use of data, the outcomes data supports recruitment, program evaluation, training grant reporting, and some data was made public for prospective trainees to see. And so here's just some more examples pulled, and you can see some of the universities that responded. And so Tufts University, the Sackler School of Graduate Biomedical Sciences, they looked at career outcomes, time to degree, fellowships, publications. As reported, they did direct emails, alumni tracking using InDegree. They used a Microsoft Access database, manual entry, periodic updates, and LinkedIn mining. And so you can view the full report to see the full profile of those institutions that were reviewed for this report. And before we jump in to the next part, I'm just going to take a minute and I'm going to call on Dr. Steve Witten from Texas State's Department of Chemistry and Biochemistry, and also a faculty fellow in this area, to talk about the outcomes and training measures that he's used for his programs and, how he's running that in his own respective programs.
Hi, Carolyn. Hi, I'm Steve Whitten. I'm one of the PIs on a MS to PhD bridge program supported by the NIH. It's a program that we've had for over a decade now. All training programs are going to be different since ours is the goal of it is to transition students from MS degree programs here at Texas State into a biomedical PhD program. Um, the things that we were most interested in tracking is things like end dates, start date, end date of the students starting the programs, um, their where they matriculated after they finished. So did they go to a PhD program? Since that was the goal, we wanted to know that. If they didn't, we wanted to know what sort of careers they went into instead of furthering their education. During their time in these degree programs, we also tracked awards they may have received, the title of their theses or dissertations to make sure that their training was biomedical related. We also looked at publications, conference presentations, all those sorts of things. And so it was quite a range of data, and we did it in a kind of cumbersome way, just in Word documents and Excel spreadsheets. And so, um, I'm really interested in hearing about this flight tracker to see if that could help. Our tracking was done mostly manually, where we started tracking these data and then just kind of got in a rut, and momentum kept us using the way we were doing this by hand. And so there's some sophisticated programs out there that I think they would be really helpful to the types of training programs I've been involved with.
And Steve, I know the Bridge program ran for 10 years. How long are you tracking like your alumni outcomes?
As long as we can, so a lot of the students, it was something in the low to mid 70% of the students that went through our program did enter doctoral degree programs after leaving here, and so we needed to monitor whether or not they actually finished those PhD programs, because since that was kind of the goal to help these students get a PhD, it was more than just did they go to a PhD program. Now they're not a problem anymore. The NIH was interested in were we training them well so that they successfully completed the PhD program that they entered in, and what were the statistics on that? Was it a higher percentage completing the PhD relative to just the general public of students entering those types of programs? And that's 5, 6 years, right? And then we're also monitoring what they did after that. Did they go into a postdoc career position, or did they go straight into industry? And also during that whole time, any awards they may have won. All this kind of ancillary data just to let us know or inform whether or not they were successfully trained from our program. So long-term training, and so keeping contact information was difficult at time, but definitely long-term tracking.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing. So we will segue in then talking about Flight Tracker. So one of the schools covered in that report was Vanderbilt, and through an NIH award, Vanderbilt was able to create Flight Tracker for Scholars, which is a software available to the wider community at no cost to use, particularly those in biomedical research training, but there are features that may be useful to those not in biomedical research, that you can use for your own program or institution to track your trainee outcomes. And so it is used by over 60 institutions, and it provides automation for tracking the analysis of career outcomes for scholars in biomedical research. And it integrates with REDCap. Some of y'all may already work with REDCap if you work in the clinical research space. And we have REDCap here at Texas State University through our Division of Research. And so through using REDCap, Flight Tracker is basically a software package that um, you can activate in REDCap, and it is where you can upload all your scholars, all your faculty mentors, and their information, like their ORCID ID, um, and their name, institution, department, and it will automatically link to several databases. And on a frequency you determine, for most folks, it's every night. It pulls through all these databases like PubMed. You can have it linked with ERIC, um, and also the NIH reporter, and so on. It will pull information to automatically update your scholar profiles and your faculty mentor profiles. And it will also, and I know Steve will like this, um, take that information and produce your NIH compliant training tables, which are fairly detailed tables used when you're reporting the training program outcomes. And so I think I have another slide on Flight Tracker. Here we go. So yeah, automated data collection. It will track publications, grants, scholarly activities. One feature that I think is really cool is it can do customizable surveys, which will then feed your scholar profiles and your faculty profiles so that you can still have your program personalized communications with your current and past trainees and faculty mentors. But then they can input their updates and it will automatically go into your database. So you're not doing manual entry. I know with the bridge programs, when I was working as program coordinator with them, we would have individual emails about a student winning a fellowship, and we'd have to, individually go update the database. And so this automates that process. You can also send out customized celebration emails or kind of foster an email communication with your program alumni to keep them in touch with that community. There are various dashboards and visualizations that are, provided in real time. You can look at network graphs and different metric graphs. It really can make your reporting efficient, especially those NIH training tables and progress reports. It is supposed to reduce staff effort by approximately 75%. It is very scalable. As far as I've explored it and seen presented, you could just run Flight Tracker for your individual grant or say your research group, or you can run it at a departmental or institutional level and link to all the awards happening. There is a lot of community support. There's a monthly community of practice. There's, virtual meetings. There's a forum and there's an onboarding process. And there is a way for scholars to go in and look at it in their own kind of scholar portal view so they can access their own data and metrics as well. And so I have been playing with Flight Tracker for a fairly brief period of time, but I have enough to be able to demo it with y'all today. So I'm going to transition us to a screen share so you can see what it looks like. Okay, and so you access Flight Tracker through logging into REDCap online through the Texas State portal. I did have to work with Division of Research to get this fully set up and have the permissions made to, upload the program into a REDCap project. And so you can see once you have it set up, it is branded with Flight Tracker. There is a spot to insert your own branding as well. You can see that there are updates and it will tell you when they're run. I get an email every night telling me it's updated. Um, and I'll come back to questions on REDCap after this little demo. And so I'll just show you a few pieces. I mentioned the celebration emails. You can do your settings. So right now I don't have it going through ERIC, the Educational Research Database, but I do have it connected to PubMed and ORCID IDs. Um, you can see that you can request different NIH training tables. I was able to import a demo set of scholars and faculty using data tables from prior reports that Steve was able to share with me. There's lots of stuff you can use it for as well. You can get tables exported of all the grants related to your training program, publication lists. You can get a demographic table. There's some other reports for kind of data wrangling. There are wranglers for grants, publications, ORCID IDs. So if you have uploaded your trainee or faculty data and some things aren't showing up, you can go into the wrangler and it will work through and tell you kind of based on best match, like, oh, this person didn't show up linked with this publication. You should double check it based on this publication wrangler. We think this is a match. I will say Flight Tracker uses folks' first and last names and their institutions. And so if folks have a really common name, there's some additional wrangling steps and the use of their ORCID ID that is necessary to match them with all of these databases. Um, For scholars, I'm just going to show up some scholar profiles. Oh, so yes, you can access REDCap through the university, through the Division of Research. I believe there's a request form, and then you can work with Division of Research to get a project set up. Okay, scholars. So here's an example of some scholar profiles. Okay, so here's an example of a past scholar, George. Um, you can see George had a mentor, Dr. Stephen Witten. We have some publications in the system, citations by others. If George had research grants, this area would be populated as well. You can see some timelines. George was appointed to a past bridge program grant in R25. Um, you can see the publication, research topics that George has been involved in, and who George is publishing with. Um, and so we'll pull another record. There's Brianna. Brianna was a past student working with Dr. Kornienko. You can see Brianna's eyesight score, research articles, timelines, and kind of where Brianna is working and who Brianna is working with. I will say this is a small set of demo data that is in here right now, but I wanted y'all to see what this looks like and the kind of information that it can put together. And I'll do one more here. We have IM. IM was working with Dr. Karen Lewis. You can see an eyesight score, citations by others, and so on. You also can have your research mentors in here as well. So you can see your scholars as well, and the mentors are uploaded. This was all done by uploading a past table. There are different dashboards. And so, once you have more folks in, you can see a dashboard of your choice. Let me see grants. And as it links with the reporter and grants.gov, you can see more. Um, okay, so I'm still working out several kinks. I will say that you can also house mentor-mentee agreements in here and have that link through. um, in addition to the surveys. Um, and there's a variety of options. There are different resources you can use, such as branding and participant rosters. And you can also take your trainees and define them into cohorts. And so this would be really good for tracking, say you have an annual cohort. So for Dr. Witten's bridge programs, they had annual cohorts that they tracked. So you can separate data out by cohort. And so I'll stop sharing. And one thing with Flight Tracker and why I wanted to introduce it today is that now that I have Flight Tracker set up, I am open to working with others to either we have a Translational Health Research Center flight tracker project. And so under that umbrella, we can work to help you implement flight tracker for your own program or award or research group. Or I'd be open to speaking about how you can activate your own flight tracker on a separate REDCap project. Division of Research was able to facilitate all of this in addition to the onboarding support from Flight Tracker. So that is one technology that I wanted to introduce today. And now we will segue into looking at Lightcast and alumni pathways. And so I believe Nick is here with us, and Nick will be able to share Flight Tracker with us all as well, which is another resource and technology you can utilize for tracking your trainee success.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Yeah, okay, good. I'm Nick Weimer. I'm the Assistant Vice Provost for Experiential and Academic Initiatives here at Texas State University. And I'll be talking about Alumni Pathway, which is a great it's nice to put these two side by side, Flight Tracker and Alumni Pathways, because Flight Tracker is a good way to look at individual student data, as you just saw, and Alumni Pathways is going to give us that large meta set of data, the large summary of all of our students from Texas State University. For those of you that have worked at Texas State for a while, you know we've had a problem for a while of tracking alumni progress once they leave the institution. We do provide exit surveys at the point of graduation, but usually students are speculating on future careers they have not yet obtained. And we don't get a huge response rate. Less than 10% of the students reply to those exit surveys. So we just don't have a really good data set. So what we've done is through a Quanta grant, Quanta Partnerships is providing our university with some funding. We've decided to purchase Lightcast product called Alumni Pathways. And what they do is we provided them with student information going all the way back to 2004. And they're able to use open source internet resources to track these students and their progress. And so they were able to match about 50% of our students that have graduated since 2004 in their careers and for future educational pursuits. So why don't I share my screen here and I'll let you take a look at it. So Lightcast, or I'm sorry, Alumni Pathways, which is part of the Lightcast series of products. So this is designed to bring students, staff, and faculty greater access to post-graduation data. Students can have better access to economic and workforce status for their majors of study. An example being on the right side of the screen here. This is a new widget that Lightcast provides our students where they can search by different types of careers, and it gives information about the median salary, the number of job openings based on region. So this is the state of Texas, how many are currently employed in this field, and the top skills associated with that. And then for our faculty, staff, administrators, it gives us a much better understanding of post-graduation outcomes. So I'm just going to log straight into the system here. This is helping us currently answer some question like who employs our students and what kind of jobs are they getting? Are they working in the fields related to their program of study? And are they staying in state or migrating out of state? So let me give you some, let's just run some reports here so you guys can see it all in action. Uh, we can start with school summary. There's also career and education pathways, education outcomes, program snapshots, which are very helpful for departments for looking at their students in particular. So let's start with school summary. We can see right now that we were able to capture data for 58,000 students that have graduated from Texas State University. 59% of them are employed in the field that they majored in, or that they got their degree in, I should say. And then it looks like 86% of them still reside within the state of Texas after graduating from here. There's a ton of filters on here. That's the great thing about it. And let's start with a program. Just picking one from random. How about history? And it'll filter out just the students that have graduated from that major, 730 students. And you can see the type of careers that they're in. These are pathways of these students. Other is usually the top one for all of them, but you can see a lot of history. The next biggest one was teachers, secondary school teachers, lawyers, first line supervisors. That has a full breakdown here of how many student by percentages went into these different field of studies, or to these careers, I should say. Lets you search by the NAICS 3-digit code for different industries that they've gone to work in. Again, job titles specifically, different occupations. Shows the top companies that these students work for. The state of Texas is #1. KIPP Texas Public Schools is second. UT is third for our students. Skills associated with that particular major and careers. It breaks down the percent of skills. And by the way, what it's doing here with skills is it's looking at the job descriptions for these different positions and the skills that are being posted in the market and pairing those to the careers that our students have. And then down here is a breakdown of the grid of where all those students go to work. Looks like mostly Texas, of course, one over here in Denver, one or two out here in New York. So this really helps when we have the larger data sets to see where our students are traveling to. You can break this down by undergraduate degree or graduate degrees. You can look through different academic units, such as the colleges in this case, which college they've graduated from. You can look at your first gen students specifically. You can also filter out whether they graduated or did not graduate. I forgot to mention that this study does include people that have left Texas State that may not have graduated. So you could filter out, for example, start looking at the profiles of students that left your program and did not graduate from Texas State University, where they went to. Age ranges, gender, race and ethnicity is on here. The cities that they went to work in, and different ways of breaking down the types of occupations they went into. So that's a little bit on the first one. I'm trying to go quickly here because there's a lot of ground to cover, and then we'll do some questions. So that's looking specifically at career outcomes. You can also break it out. Let's take a step back here. By education pathways too. So let's say you have an undergraduate degree program in your department or college, and you want to see what kind of graduate programs the students are going to. You can break it out that way as well. So let's try. If anybody wants to suggest a program, feel free to speak up. I think history is only undergraduate degree, so we can stick with that one and look at education outcomes. And it'll tell you the type of fields of studies student go into in long term. It looks like the #1, by the way this breaks it down is the top ones are going to be on top. So it looks like after 5, 10, 15 years, students are going into education degrees post-graduation from Texas State University. And where is the other education grid? I think that's on the next, yeah, the education outcomes report. There we go. So you can also take a program here at Texas State University and let's say baccalaureate and look at other subsequent programs. Let's say you could look for fields of study or just run it that way and let it tell you where these students go after. We can set it for subsequent education, which shows that from our institution, history majors are those that go on to graduate school are going to Texas State University. Austin Community College is the second most popular, probably for the stopouts. And then for Lamar, University of Texas at Austin, San Antonio. This is very helpful, as you can imagine, for some very specific degrees to look at. So perhaps how we market to our students, you could also flip it around and do previous education, which since I set this up for a bachelor's isn't going to be quite right. This is mostly going to be our transfer in, but this is helpful information too for marketing your program to know where your students are coming from for this bachelor's degree if they're transferring in. Looks like again, ACC is the #1 feeder as a transfer institution to Texas State University. But we could take a graduate program and you'll probably see some other colleges. Yep, so if we do previous education, looks like most of our students are coming from Texas State University. UT is our second biggest feeder into and then yeah, A&M, Corpus Christi, San Antonio, and others. You can see the percent breakdown here of how many students we're talking about coming from each one of those areas. And you can filter down graduation years, so you only want, let's say, the last 5 years of people that have graduated from this program, and it's going to really narrow it down much more specifically. You can see that from that program, Rutgers, a student went there, one to University of Memphis, one to Ohio University. So this can really help inform a lot of the programs here at the university. And Carolyn's been using it for grant reporting purposes too. Well, I should say, and grant applications as well.
Yep, it's one proof point you could quickly get for proposals and reports, whether it's an actual outcome. We don't normally use it for a direct outcome, but as narrative feedback related to a direct outcome. It's been a great tool, and you can export the reports and those figures in different formats too, whether it's like a Word document, a PDF report, or a PowerPoint slide, I believe. And so it's very quick to be able to incorporate it into various workflows that you might need it for. And similar to the flight tracker, if you're interested in getting access to Lightcast and learning more, please communicate that in the survey at the end of the session so we can directly follow up with those who are interested. And so one point that I want to make sure is included in our discussion is that if we are looking to use technology or these large automated databases to take the place of some of the manual communication and tracking efforts that we have historically been using across training programs in the country that rely on personal communication and, single data entry points, we're going to need to have reliable data to automatically track and include in these databases. And so there's kind of two unique identifiers that allow your trainees to be kind of found in these databases and linked to them. And so one really important one that we've been using, I say we as in like training programs across the country, and that I encourage y'all to use, and I know Career Services pushes for this and different departments push. The LinkedIn ID is a way that students can have an identifiable point that these automated systems can use to find them and take the data. I believe Lightcast scrapes LinkedIn as one of their sources. And so encouraging students within your own lab program department to be utilizing LinkedIn allows these technologies to find them and incorporate them in your report. You probably could see for some programs, Lightcast does not have a huge N value. And so if you want to have more confidence in the information as representing what your students are actually doing, they need to be findable. And then if they're staying in the research space, similarly, the ORCID ID will allow them to be tracked in their productivity as well. And so if you're looking to leverage technology and automation, you really need to have your trainees be represented by the data that these technologies are using.